Hare Krishna everyone, and welcome back once again to our ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharine, Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pastachade Shatarane. All glories to Prabhupada. So we are continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, and this will be part 68. Last week, as you may remember, we discussed Jayadev Goswami, the poet, and I would like to continue today with part 2 of his life and poetry. Last week, we discussed his birth, his childhood, where he found his Ishtadeva, Radhamadava deities. We discussed his meeting King Lakshman Sena and moving to that forested area. We discussed his service to the king of Orissa, and finally his marriage to Padmavati. That was really interesting. And then soon after, we discussed his beginning to write his epic Gita Govinda. So today we'll begin from that point. So one day, in the late morning, as Jayadev Goswami was writing his Gita Govinda and his wife Padmavati was cooking the lunch, Jayadev started writing how in Krishna's pastimes it appeared Krishna was controlled by the love of the gopis, in particular Srimati Radharani, and that he was subordinate to them. And Jayadev was thinking how to write a particular phrase in this regard, but he stopped short, saying to himself, how can I write such a thing? Krishna, by definition, is the supreme controller. How can he be controlled by Srimati Radharani, his devotee, his consort? So we call that writer's block, for those of us who write. So he decided to take a break from his writing to think about this deep spiritual subject matter. So he told his wife, Padmavati, that he was going to take bath in the Ganges and he would be back soon. So he left. And then one of the most amazing things in our Vaishnava history took place. While Jayadev was away, Krishna himself, disguised as Jayadev Goswami, came to Jayadev's house, walked in, went over to Jayadev's desk, picked up his pen, and wrote at the place that Jayadev had hesitated to write. Krishna wrote, Shmara Garala Kandanam, Mama Shirasi Mandanam, Dehi Pada Palavam Udaram, Dvalati Mai Daru Naha, Madana Kadana Ana, Karatu Tu Upahita Vikram. Hare Krishna. The translation is just amazing. Krishna wrote this. Speaking to Srimati Radharani, who was displaying jealous anger towards him, Krishna implored, O beloved, your tender, sprout-like feet are the antidote to Cupid's venom. Please place them on my head as my ornament and glory. The scorching fire of Cupid's poison is unbearable. Please, therefore, let the touch of your feet quell the torment of my love. Very, very famous quote in our Gaudiya Vaishnava history. And the most famous line is, Dehi Pada Palavam Udaram. All Vaishnava scholars, they know that. Which means, please place your feet on my head as my ornament and glory. Krishna's words to Sri Radha. Therein we see how Krishna actually is controlled by the love of Srimati Radharani. So with that, Krishna, again disguised as Jayadev, sat down and took the prasadam, the lunch prasadam that was prepared by Padmavati. And after finishing the prasadam, Krishna, looking like Jayadev, told Padmavati he was now going to go for a walk. Now, just a few minutes later, the real Jayadev Goswami returned from bathing in the Ganges. And when he asked his wife when the prasadam would be ready, Padmavati was surprised, of course, when she told Jayadev that he'd just come back earlier, written something on his desk, had taken prasadam and left again. Jayadev was speechless. So he went over to his desk and saw in the place that he had hesitated to write in the verse that Krishna had written while he was bathing in the Ganges. Dehi pada palavam udaram, especially that significant line. Please place your feet on my head as my ornament and glory. So understanding this, Jayadev exclaimed, "It's a miracle, it's a miracle, it's a miracle," and tears of ecstasy flowed from his eyes. He called out, "Padmavati, you were most fortunate, for Krishna himself has written the line, Dehi pada palavam udaram, and accepted prasadam from your own hand." So when Jayadev Goswami finally finished Gita Govinda, he concluded it with the most beautiful prayer. It's one of my favorites. He writes at the end of Gita Govinda, "Whatever is delightful in the varieties of music, whatever is graceful in fine strains of poetry, and whatever is exquisite in the sweet art of love, let the happy and wise persons learn that from the songs of Gita Govinda." Hare Krishna. So, that's an amazing pastime, often repeated in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. There's another pastime of Padmavati and Jayadev that I'd like to share with you today. It is said that once Padmavati was visiting the queen of the king of Puri, because remember they got married in Puri, Jayadev and Padmavati, and knowing that Padmavati was 100% dedicated to her beloved husband, the queen, she wanted to play like a trick on Padmavati, kind of a cruel trick, but a trick. And she told her that Jayadev, just a few hours earlier, had unexpectedly passed away while he was praying in the temple of Lord Jagannath. So it was a trick, but much to everyone's shock, as soon as Padmavati heard these words, feeling great separation from her devotee husband, she clutched her heart and suddenly fell down on the ground lifeless. She left her body. So the king was informed, and he called for Jayadev to tell him the sad news concerning the mischief, it's described, of his queen. But to his surprise, Jayadev didn't seem at all disturbed. He merely asked to be taken to the remains of his wife. And when brought before the body of Padmavati, Jayadev began sweetly singing a line from the Gita Govinda. Priye chorushile muncha mai manam adidanam. O beloved, O graceful one, give up this causeless aversion. Speaking to his wife, but quoting from Gita Govinda. O beloved, O graceful one, give up this causeless aversion. So I was looking up. This line is part of the 10th sarga, describes sarga or part of Jayadev's Gita Govinda. It was sung by Krishna to Srimati Radharani when he was once trying to soothe her anger. But Jayadev quoted it, speaking to his wife. So hearing Jayadev reciting this line, Padmavati regained her external senses, and she got up and began singing the song with Jayadev. This part of the song brought her back to life. And the Acharyas say that by bringing Padmavati back to life in this manner, Jayadev brought further meaning to the Gopi statement to Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-9. Tava katam ritam tapta jivanam. Translated means, O Krishna, the nectar of your katha bestows life. O Krishna, the nectar of your katha bestows life. So she came back to life hearing the katha of Krishna. Now again, although Gita Govinda is a literature, we discussed this last week, meant for Paramahamsa, swan-like devotees, there are some parts, a few parts, that we as aspiring devotees can also appreciate. Last week we read one of the poems of Gita Govinda. And there's one more nice example I found, that throughout Gita Govinda, Jayadev describes Krishna's body very often as bluish black. He writes, for example, with his soft bluish black limbs, which resemble blue lotus flowers, Krishna has created a spring festival for Cupid. Now in my readings, I've seen that Krishna's complexion is often described in three ways. As Nila, blue, as Shyam, black, and as Shamala, bluish black. Actually, Srila Prabhupada writes in a purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 3.2.13 as follows. There is nothing comparable to the bodily features of Lord Krishna when he was present in this world. The most beautiful object in the material world may be compared to the blue lotus flower or the full moon in the sky, but even the lotus flower and the moon were defeated by the beauty of the bodily features of Lord Krishna. Prabhupada. So, in his writings, in his commentaries, let us say, Srila Prabhupada uses two colors interchangeably, generally in describing Krishna. This took some research. For example, he writes, Krishna's complexion is like a dark blue cloud. Another example is, he writes, Krishna's bodily color resembles a fresh black cloud. So two colors there. And Sri Rupa Goswami has written that the touch of Krishna's blue cheeks changed the color of his flute from its natural bamboo yellow to the deep blue-black color of a sapphire. Rupa Goswami ki. Now Krishna's not the only one who actually has the power to turn things blue. This is an interesting discussion we're having. For Srimati Radharani, she can as well. I read that once Krishna placed a white lotus bud in the curly locks of Radharani's hair, and the flower at once turned blue. Actually, many things are infused with the color of Krishna's body. Srila Prabhupada once said that, let me remember, Krishna's bodily effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti, is responsible for tinting the sky with its bluish rays. Wow. Now, following on this topic, one time Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that the actual bluish black color of Krishna's form can only be perceived with spiritual eyes, because that real bluish black color is one of the unlimited colors of the spiritual world, not present in the material world. So if we really, really want to see Krishna's bluish black Shyam form, we have to become pure devotees and have spiritual eyes. Premanjani charati bhakti vilochanena. But to give us some idea of the Lord's bodily hue, it's often compared to the following, just to give us an idea. Again, blue lotuses, sapphires, rain clouds, the tamal tree, beryllium, a swarm of bees, and the Jamuna River. So moving on, our acharyas have written that after Jayadev Goswami completed Gita Govinda, again in Mayapur, actually Lord Chaitanya appeared to him and gave him his blissful darshan and revealed to him that he, Mahaprabhu, would one day appear in Navadvip and inaugurate the Sankirtan movement of chanting the holy names. And then Mahaprabhu instructed Jayadev Goswami to return to Jagannath Puri. Mahaprabhu also revealed to him how he himself would later move to Jagannath Puri to relish his Jayadev Goswami's Gita Govinda. This is before the appearance of Mahaprabhu. He told Jayadev, I'm going to go to Puri, and in the Gambhira, I'm going to relish your Gita Govinda. This is written by our acharyas. This was 400 years before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. So after his darshan with Mahaprabhu, that's what Jayadev Goswami did. He returned to Jagannath Puri. And from there, the fame of his Gita Govinda spread. First, it's described throughout Orissa, and then throughout India. And at one point, Gita Govinda was being read actually to Lord Jagannath every day. This actually became a standard practice, that the pujaris would read Gita Govinda to Lord Jagannath. We mentioned, you remember, earlier, that Jayadev Goswami had actually written Gita Govinda for this purpose. Remember? For the glorification and for Lord Jagannath to hear. So Jayadev Goswami lived in Puri, and he continued with his writings. He wrote so many poems about Radha and Krishna. It's described that he also took time to visit various holy places around India, including Sri Vrindavan Dham. And when Jayadev actually visited Vrindavan, he brought with him his Radha-Madhava deities, and he worshipped them. It's described in a small grass hut on the banks of the river Jamuna. Where? At Keshigat. Nice detail. And every day, he would sing his Gita Govinda to his deities and melt the hearts of the few sadhus who were living in Vrindavan forest at that time. Fortunate were those sadhus. Now, honoring Jayadev Goswami's visit to Vrindavan, there's actually a Pushpa Samadhi of his I saw on the banks of Radhakund. Some say his Radha-Madhava deities are presently being worshipped in Jaipur. Other scholars say they are being worshipped at his birthplace in Kendu Bilva in Bengal, in the temple of Radha Vinod, constructed by a king named Kirti Chandra of Burdwan in order to preserve the birthplace, or the importance of the birthplace of Jayadev Goswami. Now, there are a few noteworthy pastimes connected to his epic work, Gita Govinda, I think that are worth mentioning. Many years after the departure of Jayadev Goswami, a certain king of Puri, his name was King Purushottam Deva, he insisted that his own work, which he called Abhinava Gita Govinda, was superior to Jayadev Goswami's Gita Govinda. You can imagine. And that his work should be read to Lord Jagannath every day instead of Jayadev's. Well, he was the king, so he tried to get away with it. So there were some objections, and due to the, how could you say, politically sensitive nature of the challenge, the temple brahmanas decided to let Lord Jagannath judge for himself. So what they did is they placed both books before Jagannath, before Lord Jagannath, this king and Jayadev Goswami's Gita Govindas. And they locked the temple for the night. Now, the following morning, when the pujaris opened the temple doors, they found the pages of the king's book scattered all over the floor. And Jayadev Goswami's Gita Govinda nestled under Lord Jagannath's arm, close to his heart. That's how it's written. It said, the Lord had given his verdict. I like that. The Lord had given his verdict, and rightfully so. Now there's another pastime that took place around 300 years after Jayadev departed this world. On that occasion, Lord Jagannath had been put to sleep after his midday meal, when a florist started singing the Gita Govinda in a garden nearby on the temple grounds. And Lord Jagannath was so eager to hear this spontaneous performance, it's described, out of his favorite work, that he actually woke up, because when he's asleep he's also awake, yoga nidra, and he actually left the temple. And he hid in a bush nearby, not caring for the thorns that were, ripping his cloth and scratching his body, just to hear this pure devotee sing Gita Govinda. So Lord Jagannath, after some time, returned to his altar, actually just in time, to give his blessings to the devotees, but his pujaris were shocked when they opened the curtain, at the sight of their ragged and wounded Lord. It's written, their ragged and wounded Lord. So they at once ran to inform the king, who at that time in history was the famous Maharaj Pataparudra. So the king was somewhat confused by this news, until the Lord appeared to him in a dream one night and explained exactly what had happened. So in that pastime, Lord Jagannath once again revealed his exclusive attachment to Gita Govinda. So Maharaj Pataparudra, because the Lord had appeared to him in a dream and told him what had happened, so Maharaj Pataparudra actually issued the following, royal decree. This is the royal decree. To all the citizens of Jagannath Puri, performances of song and dance for Jagannath and Balaram will consist solely of Gita Govinda and no other work. Performers are therefore instructed to learn the songs of Gita Govinda exclusively. 4 musicians will accompany the dancers who enact Gita Govinda. Others may follow in chorus. Temple officials who allow any other song to be performed will be deemed enemies of Lord Jagannath. Temple officials who allow any other song to be performed will be deemed enemies of Lord Jagannath. The king made a decree. So, to the credit of that temple management in Jagannath Puri, this tradition is still being carried on to the present day. Hare Krishna. It's nice to hear how these traditions have been carried on for thousands of years, and we hope also within our institution, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, the standards that Srila Prabhupada set, especially with deity worship, we could say, will continue as they are. Hare Krishna. So we will finish today, actually, with a verse by Ramananda Rai, glorifying the poetry of Sri Rupa Goswami, because we're speaking about poets, and as we know, Rupa Goswami excelled in transcendental poetry. So I thought it would be fitting today to finish with. After reading Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhava, Ramananda Rai said, Kavita Nahaya e Amritera Dhara, Nitaka Lakshana Shaba Shidantera Sara. This is not simply a poetic presentation. It is a continuous shower of nectar. Indeed, it is the essence of all ultimate realization appearing in the form of plays. The wonderful descriptions of Rupa Goswami are superb arrangements to express loving affairs. Hearing them will plunge the heart and the ears of everyone into a whirlpool of transcendental bliss. Into a whirlpool of transcendental bliss. All glories to Srila Rupa Goswami. All glories to Srila Jayadev Goswami. Hare Krishna. So that was part 2 of this illustrious devotee. I really enjoyed reading and preparing this lecture, and I hope you relished the subject matter in your hearts. Yes, so we're now in Vrindavan, and we're leaving tomorrow morning for Rishikesh for our 3-week Rishikesh Kirtan Fest. And I heard there's many Westerners. Actually, I heard that the people of Rishikesh are waiting for us because they remember how wonderful our festival was the past few years. So, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Jayadev Goswami ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Nitai Gaur Pimanandi, Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Sham. Jagannath Swami.